Welcome to the Dragon's Den. My name is Leo Drake and thank you for spending part of your day with me. Please consider subscribing as it is free, and if you don't, I will judge you. If you enjoy the video, click the like button and ring the notification bell to be notified when I post a new video. In this video, we are reviewing the classic film Judgment at Nuremberg. I will be discussing the movie during this video, so consider this your one and only spoiler warning. So let's get to it. Judgment at Nuremberg from 1961 is directed by Stanley Kramer and filmed in wonderful black and white. The film is set in Nuremberg, Germany in 1948. This movie is a fictionalised depiction of the 1947 judges' trial, the third of 12 trials of Nazi war criminals conducted by the American occupying forces in Nuremberg, Germany, in which former judges of Nazi Germany were tried for their actions following World War II. 3 judges, Judge Kenneth Norris, Judge Curtis Ives, and Chief Judge Dan Haywood, played by Spencer Tracy, oversee the case and will come to a verdict at the end of the tribunal. The defendants are Emil Hahn, Frederick Hofstadter, Werner Lampe, and Dr. Ernst Janning, played by Burt Lancaster. The charge is of conscious participation in a nationwide government-organised system of cruelty and injustice against the moral code of every known country. All 4 men plead not guilty to the charges. The prosecution is led by Colonel Tad Lawson and the defence by Hans Ralph. The trial is unusual because the crimes committed were legal during the time they occurred under the government of the Third Reich. The prosecution's first witness is Dr. Wieck, who was Ernst Janning's mentor. He resigned when the judge's role changed and believed no man could be blind and deaf to the harm that was caused. The defence are quick to point out that because Dr. Wieck resigned, he was then unable to comment on what it was like for the defendants and that they were still performing an important role to help the country. Judge Haywood seeks answers outside of the courtroom. He reads a book written by Ernst Janning, speaks to his servants at his lodging, and a local woman called Mrs. Bernholt, whose husband was tried, convicted, and executed by the Americans as a war criminal. The next witness, Rudolf Peterson, talks about how his family were ill-treated because they were associated with the Communist Party. Mr. Peterson was sterilised, but the defence seek to portray the witness as being feeble-minded by pressuring him in the courtroom to justify the procedure. Judge Haywood is from rural Maine. He was a district court judge before retiring. It is clear he is out of his comfort zone, but he retains a sense of duty and integrity. Mrs. Bernholt tells Haywood she, her husband, and Janning all hated Hitler, and she believes her husband was politically murdered as revenge for the crimes committed in the war. Tad Lawson goes to Berlin and entreats Irene Hoffman, played by Judy Garland, to appear at the tribunal. Irene was involved in a very public and emotional case, the Feldenstein case. Feldenstein was accused of having relations with Irene, who was a 16-year-old girl at the time. The public prosecutor was the defendant Emil Hahn, known for his extreme brutality, and the presiding judge was defendant Ernst Janning. Irene gives an emotional testimony that Feldenstein was a family friend who helped her after her parents' death. He was her landlord and friend. Irene was pressured into testifying against Feldenstein, and when she refused, she was imprisoned for 2 years for perjury. Feldenstein's trial only lasted 2 days before he was pronounced guilty and executed. The defence declines to cross-examine Irene at the current time, but leaves it open for them to do so later. Lawson provides evidence showing hundreds of signed orders by the 4 judges on trial that sent countless victims to concentration camps without a fair trial. Lawson himself is sworn in as a witness. He was a member of the US military in 1945 at the close of the war. Lawson commanded troops liberating certain concentration camps and shows footage of what they found.
How could it be possible? Tell them. How could it be possible?
It's possible.
Herr Rolf begins the defence by condemning the footage shown by the prosecution. He claims that the murders were carried out by a few extremists in secret. The German people and the defendants did not know of the atrocities. Herr Rolf believes the prosecution have offered only one piece of evidence against Ernst Janning relating to the Feldenstein case and calls a witness Mrs. Elsa Lindau, who was a cleaner who testifies seeing Feldenstein kiss Irene and sitting in his lap. Herr Rolf calls Irene to the stand and relentlessly harangues her about the relationship between her and Feldenstein. Surprisingly, it is defendant Ernst Janning who steps in and wishes to make a statement despite his own counsel's advice. Herr Rolf tells Janning that they are fighting for the future of a Germany independent of American and Russian oversight. Judge Hayward is also approached and told that America requires the geographical, political and military importance of Germany in Europe. Ernst Janning takes the stand and declares that during the period there was hunger, disharmony, but most of all fear. Hitler unified Germany by making people proud of being German again. And why did those who know better go along with his lies? Because they love their country. The movement succeeded in progressing them forward beyond their wildest dreams and granted them powerful allies. Janning speaks about the Feldenstein case and confesses he prejudged Feldenstein and would have found him guilty whatever the evidence.
And Ernst Janning, worse than any of them, because he knew what they were, and he went along with them.
Janning then begins testifying against his fellow defendants. Werner Lampe, an old man who cries into his Bible, profited by every person he sent to a concentration camp. Friedrich Hofstetter, the good German who knew how to take orders, who sent men to be sterilized like so many digits. Emil Hahn, the decayed, corrupt bigot, obsessed with evil within himself. Ernst Janning, worst of all, because he knew and went along with it. The whole Janning testimony is extremely powerful and compelling viewing with an excellent performance by Bernd Lancaster. Perhaps the highlight of the film for me. Rolf's defence is totally blown apart by the man he is trying to defend. Changing tack, he claims Janning went along with the Nazi Party hoping it would be good for his country, and he was not alone in his complicity. The Soviet Union signed a pact with Germany facilitating the war. The Vatican signed a pact with Hitler in 1933, giving him international legitimacy and internal stability. Herr Rolf reads a quote from Churchill in 1938 praising Hitler, and American industrialists profited from the rebuilding of Germany. Before the tribunal adjourns to consider their verdict, the defendants are given one last opportunity to speak. Emil Hahn does not dispute the crimes, though does feel he is not guilty for doing what he believed was necessary. Hofstetter says that he served his country faithfully without malice. He accepted the concept to sacrifice one's own sense of justice for the authoritative legal order, to ask only what the law is and not whether it is also justice. As a judge, he could do no other. Werner Lampe is unable to speak, and Ernst Janning has said everything he wants to say. Judge Ives and Judge Norris take a legal basis in their consideration of the case, but Judge Hayward considers the human cost.
Curtis, you were saying that the men are not responsible for their acts. You're going to have to explain that to me. You're going to have to explain it very carefully.
The trial lasts over 8 months, with 10,000 pages worth of evidence. Haywood believes there is an abundance of evidence against the defendant, with every man responsible for their actions, and being an accomplice to a crime still makes them guilty. Janning's genuine compassion and candour are appreciated, but they do not excuse his actions. These were not monsters or demented sick individuals, but ordinary and even extraordinary men. Judge Haywood warns a country in peril is not about survival, it is about what it stands for.
A decision must be made in the life of every nation at the very moment when the grasp of the enemy is at its throat. Then it seems that the only way to survive is to use the means of the enemy, to rest survival upon what is expedient, to look the other way. Well, the answer to that is survival as what? A country isn't a rock. It's not an extension of oneself. It's what it stands for. It's what it stands for when standing for something is the most difficult.
Emil Hahn is found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. Hofstetter is found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. Werner Lampe is found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. Ernst Janning is found guilty and sentenced to life in prison.
He doesn't understand. He just doesn't understand.
He understands.
Judge Ives abstains from the verdict as he believes judgment can only come in time and with history rather than in a courtroom. The result is not well received in Nuremberg. Mrs. Berndt-Holt refuses to speak with Judge Haywood before he departs, but Ernst Janning requests to speak with him and provides a personal record of his cases. Janning tells Haywood he will be criticised for his decision in coming years, but he respects it.
Those people, those millions of people, I never knew it would come to that. You must believe it. You must believe it.
Herr Janne, it came to that the first time you sentenced a man to death you knew to be innocent.
What is staggering about this movie is that Judge Haywood, who is seeking justice for the countless lives lost in the concentration camps, for the people who were sterilised or executed for crimes that they did not commit, is practically ostracised and condemned for his narrow viewpoint. The military are trying to rebuild relations with Germany for the future and are willing to overlook the past. The American people are not interested in the trials and want to move on with their lives. The German people hide behind a veil of ignorance, and Herr Rolf would have you believe the horrendous crimes were only perpetrated by a few evil men who are no longer around to answer for their crimes. The Nuremberg trials held in the American zone ended in July 14th, 1949, and of the 99 defendants sentenced to prison terms, not one of them was still serving the sentence when this movie was made in 1961. With a runtime of almost 3 hours, this black and white film might not be for casual viewers, but for those who love cinema or are interested in the history, this is a must-watch. Judgment at Nuremberg is compelling viewing with excellent dialogue. It won 2 Oscars for Best Adapted Screenplay and Maximilian Schell for Best Actor for his portrayal of Hans Rolf. This film really shows the power of film and is a movie you will not soon forget. I give Judgment at Nuremberg 4.5 out of 5 stars. Thank you for watching. Let me know which classic film I should review next down in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, give it a like and share it. I'm looking to post a new video every Monday, so be sure to come back for that and click the link on screen to watch another of my videos. Until next time, hoorah!